The other day, my boss asked me why I only ever seem to get sick on weekdays. I told him it must be my weakened immune system. I did an experiment on myself that it only lasted about 2 weeks long. And the results you'll see in this video are from the first week. Now, I came up with the idea for the experiment after reading some books on isometrics. And the claims made by the authors in there were fantabulous. They sounded like a complete fantasy. And these claims revolved around how many calories muscle burns when it's contracting. Now, we have some sense of how many calories muscles at rest burn. So if you add a pound of muscle to your body, reports range from anywhere from 6 to 50 calories a day will be burned by that extra pound of muscle, even if you're not working it out. This is just because the metabolic demands of maintaining lean body mass in the form of muscle are much higher than those required by other tissue in your body. And so one way to speed up your metabolism is to build lean body mass. Now, if it's only 6 calories a day, that's really not, something to write home about. However, one thing we're not all that sure about is how many calories muscles burn when they are contracting. And there are a lot of reasons for this. One is it depends on how many muscle fibers are contracting, right? How big is the muscle that's contracting, right? And often, even when you're lifting weights, you're rarely contracting anywhere near all of the muscle fibers that are involved. Most people struggle to get past 60% of the muscle fibers that they have to use. So a lot of it depends on how conditioned, how trained the person is. That contributes to how many muscle fibers they can actually recruit when they're lifting and how heavy it is they're lifting. And then if you're using close to 100% of your muscle fibers, typically you'd be doing like a 1 rep max exercise that's just gonna torch you after one. And in that case, you're not gonna be using all that many calories because what is that, like a 6-second rep maybe, and then you're done. Okay, so then this isometrics book that I'm reading, the guy is claiming that isometrics burn, just crazy amounts of calories. And so what I decided to do, give a try, was to do only isometrics. We're talking almost entirely overcoming style isometrics, which is where you push against something immovable, like pushing against a wall or something like that. I decided to do only those training sessions for 2 weeks straight to see what would happen. Now, I'm coming into this experiment, or I came into this experiment after doing a bodybuilding style training circuit, a body part split, 6 days a week of training, eating in a surplus. And so I was coming from a very different place, and this would be already a pretty big shock, just in terms of changing the training style. So there's that to keep in mind. And then the surplus, the caloric surplus that I was in is also very important. Now, anytime you're going to try to lose weight, you're going to go on a diet, you should at least be in maintenance, caloric maintenance for some period of time. You don't want to go into a diet from a diet. You don't want to be in a deficit where you're not eating enough already and then give yourself a further deficit unless you know what you're doing. If you're going to start a deficit, if you're going to start trying to lose weight, you should make sure that you are maintaining your weight at the very least. And coming from a bulking or like a gaining phase is the best thing to do, because then your metabolism will be going as quickly as possible. And when you do cut your calories, you'll see the best results. And so I was in a bulking phase, so keep that in mind. Now, let's take a look at what happened. I'll show you first the style of exercise that I did during these 2 weeks. So here are some variations I'm using a flagpole for. I'm grabbing onto it with both my arms and doing a lunge, pushing into the ground with my front leg here. Then we have a wall sit variation where I'm pushing with as much effort as I can into the flagpole, trying to push it over. Then there's a single leg deadlift. So I'm holding on to it and then trying to lift it out of the ground here. So these are all flagpole variations that you can do to hit the biggest muscles with these isometrics. So if you don't have anything better, there's always going to be a pull around. Okay, here's a front squat. So I'm going to basically just put 100% of my energy into trying to lift this bar up, and I'm going to make a funny face while I do it. This is what overcoming isometrics look like when you're doing them. They're actually not much fun to do, which might be why they're not more popular. So here I got a strap around the same thing, and I'm doing a chest press. I'm gonna work through a couple different angles with this. And in general, the protocol I'm using is about a 6-second contraction at 100%. You never want to start with 100%, ramp up to it over a period of time, 1 or 2 seconds, that is. And then about 100% of your energy, as much as you can put into it, for 6 to 8 seconds. Now, if you're trying to increase strength and muscle size, you want to repeat that for 5 sets for each muscle. So here I went incline, decline, and straight chest press, a couple different ones. So 5 sets at 6 to 8 seconds is the protocol that I used for most of these exercises. You can also lengthen it a bit longer if you want to do more hypertrophy, so 10 seconds. Okay, here is a shoulder press, like a military press or standing shoulder press. I'm pushing up on this jungle Jimmy thing here. And again, it's about 6 to 8 seconds at maximum pressing. All right, so what happened? Well, I did this kind of style of training exclusively for a week, pretty much every day for around 20 minutes, I would say, a day. And I lost 3.4 kilograms or 7.5 pounds. Now, assuming I lost all of this in fat, that would be approximately 26,180 calories or 3,740 calories a day. Now that's absurd. There's no way that I cut 3,740 calories a day from my diet. I probably cut around 700 from what I was eating. So at least 3,000 or so, which is probably what I was eating in a day. So there's no way that I could even cut that much without basically just eating nothing and drinking only water. So it's pretty crazy results. Here's another thing. So that's the measurements, my weight measurement. I also measured my waist circumference, and I lost 2 centimeters around my belly button, 2 centimeters in the same first week. And later on that week, I just tested my squat strength, my back squat strength, and I was able to do more than I'd ever done before for a 1 rep max. Now, my form wasn't great. My form didn't feel very good, probably because I hadn't been moving through the range of motion when I was doing my back squat isometrics. So that's something to be careful of. It might make you stronger, but your technique might suffer as well. And so this could be a little bit dangerous if you're not practicing the movement alongside just building the isometric strength. So that's something to keep in mind. But it would appear that I didn't lose strength and that most of my weight loss came from fat based upon the waist circumference measurements and the strength output. So it looks to me like I've got more defined abs on the right side, that my V-taper is a little bit clearer. Maybe my obliques are a little bit easier to see. So possibly I lost some weight around the love handle area. My arms also look a little bit more vascular in the right side. So these are all things you'd expect from fat loss. Here you might be able to see a little bit more definition in the arms. I'm not great with the lighting though. I'm still new at this, so apologies if it's hard to tell. I also lost my Thor temporary tattoo, which is saddening to me. But here you can kind of clearly see, I think, that the V-taper is a bit more on the right side, that I've definitely lost a little bit of weight around the love handle area or the low back fat, and it looks like better definition at the top. Now, what about the second week? Because I did continue this for the second week. I noticed that I lost much less weight the second week. So it would appear the adaptation period for this is pretty quick. I also didn't cut my calories anymore. So, my body probably adjusted a bit to the lower calories over that week and the change in exercise strategy. So I'm not going to say that this is like a long-term weight loss solution, because I can't say that for sure. If I had continued to pare down my calories, it was certainly possible that I could have continued losing more, but I can't speak to that. All I know is I stayed at the same calories, kept doing the same style of exercise, and I saw drastic changes in the first week, and then very little change in the second week in terms of body composition. So what is my takeaway from this little experiment? Well, obviously I can't generalize to the entire population. This wasn't even really all that scientific, and it only involved me on a short term. However, I think that it's pretty obvious that overcoming isometrics are an exercise methodology, the full benefits of which are not yet known and certainly have not yet been exploited by the general populace. And this is especially true for their potential as a fat loss protocol. So my experience here was, I went into this doubting that I would lose weight doing this kind of exercise. It was, it was meant to test some, again, fabulous claims made by authors of a book about the topic. And I didn't think that they could possibly be right. And I'm not going to say that I proved their claims right, but I opened my own eyes to the possibility that very strong, prolonged muscle contractions, of the isometric kind, repeated over days, can produce pretty dramatic fat loss results if you're going into it with a deficit. Now, that's a lot of caveats, perhaps, but it's also important to remember that isometrics are, bar none, the most efficient form of exercise you can engage in. They only take a few seconds to do, a repetition at least, and one repetition can produce a big effect if you're not doing any other sort of training. They're also super convenient because you don't really need any equipment and you can do them anywhere. Like, I used a flagpole and playground equipment to do this. So for you busy parents out there spending time in the park with your kids, right? Instead of bringing resistance bands or carrying a kettlebell to the park or something, you can just use the things that are there, push against them, do some isometrics with them. You may look a bit strange. You may get some glances, questioning glances from other parents. But when you look better and feel better and perform better, isn't that what really matters? So, if you're interested in learning more about what can be done with these, what kind of program you might follow to see some results, then put it down in the comments and perhaps I'll follow up. Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you found this useful. If you did, please like and subscribe. Also, put your dad jokes down in the comments so I can use them in future videos. And remember, you're already someone's hero. Now you get to earn it. So, go be super.